Thanks for joining.
All right, I think we can kick it off. So thank you all for joining and joining the discussion. And there's going to be fun things that Chuck and Greg are going to put to life. So part 2, Chuck, Greg, if you want to do your intros and kick it off.
Greg, please go first.
Well, hey, everybody. I'm Greg Pierce. I'm Chief Operating Officer with Trofeo Solutions. We are experts in Microsoft technologies, and that can be in the cloud arena, security arena, AI, as well as operational support, management, monitoring of environments on a going forward basis. I'm looking forward to talking to you guys today about the AI component. We have been very deep in cloud, I think, since everybody was debating whether cloud was a thing or not back in the day. And it's fun to see some of the things that have evolved in the cloud really be the ammunition in the fire for this AI that is taking the world by storm. Go ahead, Chuck.
Mm-hmm. Of course, for sure. So, Chuck Ingram, I am very blessed to serve as CEO of congruentX. We align people in technology around business outcomes, and I'm also blessed to have been working with Greg indirectly or directly for about 10 years. And I think we're kind of lucky. We have 2 people on this call today that aren't me, that have told me that things were coming that ended up coming. Greg told me like 10 years ago that, man, everything's going to be in the cloud. And he was right, and he led a lot of us to the cloud. Chris Cognetta, who's my CTIO at congruentX, is on the call. And after the cloud, Chris has told me 2 things were going to come and were going to be huge. He told me that low code was going to be huge. And then he told me that AI. And from day 1 at congruentX, our website said we help people get CRM right with low code and AI, and a lot of it's thanks to Chris, and of course the cloud is thanks to Greg. Super excited about this. Tasha, you want us to get into topic number 1?
Yep, topic number 1, and I believe you have the deck, Chuck, or Greg. Who are we starting with?
Greg's got topic number 1 in his slides, and I got 2 and 3, and Greg and I will tag team number 3.
Awesome.
All right. Let me see. Do you have the queue up for topic number 1, Tasha?
It is. Drum roll. My computer's not cooperating today.
So, you know, as people are thinking through this, kind of how many people's CEO, how many businesses do you think that the CEO has said, we got to go do AI? Like Greg said, we got to go do cloud, or Chris Cognetta said, we got to do low code, or we got to go do. I bet there's 99 out of 100 the CEO has said we got to go do cloud. But then on top of that, you think about, man, the poor IT people are going, how am I going to do that? I got to make it secure. I got to find use cases that the CFO is going to buy into, and I've got to have a way that I can keep this in control. And I think as Greg gets into the first part, he's going to talk about security. And I'm going to talk about some use cases that will move the needle that aren't just efficiency based. And then we're both going to talk a little bit about Center of Excellence.
Yes. So it's secure AI at scale, Greg.
Yep, got it. All right. So yeah, let me see if I can share out a little bit of this deck here. Let's kind of start here. I think one of the things that really stands out to me is as we're talking through different things that are tied to AI and some of the technology that's built into it is a lot of this is already baked and out the door. If you think about the different components of Microsoft technologies, and they've been for a long time segmented into different areas with the operating system and the cloud pieces, data and analytics, and then business applications, and that can be Dynamics 365, could be tied to CRM, what have you. All of the different components, specifically in the Microsoft arena, and if you look at AWS or GCP, they have the same sort of scenario where everybody or every piece of technology has some AI interwoven into it these days. And security is certainly no different when you think about it from a perspective of AI. One of the things that I think is super interesting is the idea of AI being used to help augment security. So, for example, the two major components of security for Microsoft are really the Defender piece, and then also the piece that ties to Sentinel. So the Sentinel piece is really what's called security incident management. And then the Defender piece is really for end user desktops and for endpoints like servers, stuff like that, to determine if there's issues that have arisen, problems, anything that might be causing issues within an environment. And I think people have decided to spend a little bit more time trying to determine what their security footprint should look like because of this idea of oversharing when it comes to AI. I think all of us have probably are on some sort of social media, or most of us are on some sort of social media. And we have friends on social media that share, major life events like when they're, I don't know, bringing their dog to the park, kids graduating, and so forth. And then we have other people that are overshares, like everything that there is to know about them, including what they had for dinner last night, what order they had that food for dinner last night, like did they eat the steak first or the salad first, stuff like that. And we don't want to be victims of oversharing when it comes to AI. So one of the things I think that's super interesting is the idea of, how do you deploy? And the good news is Microsoft has solutions that really tie to the entire life cycle. And if you think about starting with a pilot where you would have security in place that would be for a subset of your data. If you use Microsoft Purview, you can get information that'll tell you what the most sensitive info types you have. So, hey, here are the things that you need to be aware of within your environment. And oftentimes they're things that you don't even realize are out in the wild because they could be in email, they could be on somebody's hard drive, they could be in a number of different places. And the ability to understand what that is beforehand, I think, is super important. So, a practical roadmap to being able to deploy an AI solution and really get, some of the revenue generating or cost cutting measures that Chuck's going to talk about are super important from a security perspective to get right beforehand. So A, you're not sharing things that you don't want to overshare, and B, you're sharing the right things to be able to get to the answers that you want from a AI perspective. So oftentimes people look at deploying a smaller pilot, and then you look to deploy the security posture and AI at the same time to make sure that there's not components that are being sent out either to the public or internally as well. And I think that one of the more exciting parts from an AI perspective is the fact that you can leverage Copilot now. Well, almost now. It's still a preview type deployment, but you can use AI to help expedite and to enhance that security posture that you have within your organization. So Copilot built into the Sentinel of the world, or built into Defender of the world, can really, I think, help augment what you have from a technology perspective. There's a really good example here of this is, Sentinel and Defender working together because they're integrated, had determined in this case that somebody within the organization had ransomware on their computer. And I know this is a little bit hard to read, but Copilot in this case creates an alert for the incident that says, this device belongs to Devin Torres, a user in Contoso. Contoso is a demo environment, so we're not sharing anybody's actual data. It was targeted by an emerging financially motivated activity group that uses OneNote attachments to deliver remote access malware. So it tells you a bunch of information on it, gives you information on what the risk score was, tells you where it originated, that the file was downloaded originally by LS Turner from different devices. And this is leveraging Copilot built into both Sentinel and Defender. You can really create a report and information on how to remediate something that's a threat within your environment. And this takes minutes instead of what might have taken multiple people hours to try to dissect what's going on, look at multiple systems, look at the SIM and the XDR components of the security posture. So you're already starting to see things that move the needle significantly to help you prepare for an environment where you need to be able to provide a level of security and a level of obscuring of facts that you do not want to be pushed out in the wild. Like, for example, if Chuck were looking to acquire a company right now, that company, he would have an NDA with them. They would be discussing proprietary information, maybe about their solution, maybe about their revenue and their cost structure. And those are things that you can't share internally, nor can you share externally. So even though Chuck has access to that, we may want to curtail the amount of access that people have to be able to access that environment. I'm going to stop there for a little bit, so it's not all Greg talking. And Chuck, I think maybe you want to jump in here.
100% on the secure part, and Chris and I have a thing that we do, and that it's pretty cool because you want things that are scalable as a company, and you want things that are where you can free people's creativity up. So one thing that Chris and I do is sometimes I play around, or other people on the team play around, and then he brings it in and codifies it and secures it so that we have the use cases that we can scale out as a firm. And I think a lot of companies think of this that way.
Yeah, I think 100%. And the other thing that's interesting is, as you're talking about deployment of AI, like, everybody's in a different spot when it comes to AI. Some are looking and thinking, okay, is this something I need? Is this something I want? Or this is something I want, how do I deploy it? Or it's deployed, how do I actually get something out of it that is going to benefit my organization? And from a technology perspective, there's already just some really interesting use cases that are readily available, even from a deployment perspective. For example, if you're going to look to deploy an environment within Azure right now, and in this particular case, looking to deploy Cosmos DB, it'll list out the steps to do it. You can get the code that's required to do it. You can, instead of having to know specific like scripts that are usually required from an IT perspective to deploy Azure, in this case, just asking, give me a list of all the virtual machines that are not running right now, and it'll do it, and it'll give you the code that you would normally have to be able to understand to get that sort of information. Help me create the lowest cost VM possible. It will run through, give you a whole bunch of different options like, hey, you can tailor it with auto shutdown preferences. You can go ahead and use spot virtual machines to take advantage of unused capacity, which leads to lower prices in different components. There are different sizing techniques tied to it, and it'll walk you through all those different components as it stands right now. So it's not like something that's a pie in the sky scenario. It's something that this is something that you can use today.
For sure. And I always like to think of things that maybe people would take away from things like this. And this is on the back end. On the front end, for folks who are using Copilot, ChatGPT, Gemini, etc., how many people, when you give it a prompt, do you ask it to ask you questions back? Can you put your hand up if you do that? It is a secret code. I'm telling you, it makes a regular model think like a reasoning model. So if you're using 4.0 or 2.0, 4.0 in ChatGPT, or the regular Copilot, or Gemini 2.0, if you say, hey, you are an expert at this, and I need you to do this for me, and I want this for output, but first, I want you to ask me 3 clarified questions about what I'm looking for first before you blank. If you remember 5 things about what we say today, I hope that'll be one, and I promise you will get better better results out of your day-to-day interactions with AI. Anyway, that was a little bonus content there, Greg.
No, I love it. That actually leads into one of the other things I wanted to show, which is, if you're kind of struggling with this idea of prompts, one of the things that is readily available on the internet is a list of different prompts you can use. And to Chuck's point, these are on the front end. I was showing you some of the security and the Azure fundamental deployment stuff. But, in the bottom left-hand corner of each of these little boxes, it gives you an idea, small icons, but PowerPoint or notes or whatever it happens to be. And you can limit these by apps. You can tell it, okay, these are the tasks I'm looking at. Or you can say, okay, my job type, for example, is I'm in sales. And here are some prompts that are readily available within Copilot that you can try to be able to get more information out of specific documents you have, out of presentations you have. You can actually use these prompts to change a document into a presentation. So there's a lot you can be doing from a front-end perspective. They're just low-hanging fruit, easy to do, and really you just have to put Copilot in place and then start learning it and start using it. Now, where it gets, I think, super interesting these days, and Chuck mentioned Chris Cognetta as somebody who was very on the forefront of low code. One of the ideas these days that I think is definitely going to become one of the more important parts is prompt engineering. And prompt engineering is taking prompts that are, a little bit more than natural language prompts, but have a tiny bit of code tied into it, and moving to a point where that's actually how you code. And you don't have to understand Python, or you don't have to understand the different programming languages. Right now, you have to know a little bit of it. But I think as time goes by, this prompt engineering kind of wave is going to become more and more prevalent, and it's going to be how we approach the different components from a AI perspective.
100%.
I think that's a good
What else you
transition
thinking?
to do the AI use cases that drive revenue. Chuck, I know
Sounds
you've got
fun.
some up your sleeve.
Chuck gets to do the
Well,
fun
I
parts, the
like a
revenue
lot of
stuff.
things I talk about. Chris actually is behind the scenes on a bunch of them. So I the richest guy I ever met. Well, I met Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer when I was at Microsoft. It was Roger Millikan that knew my name, and he said steal shamelessly and give credit. So I'm giving credit to Chris and Ashish from our team and we have a team of about 6 people who do nothing but this stuff, and they're magical at it. But did anybody see the Super Bowl? So I don't think it happened this way, but I feel like it almost did. Where like remember the OpenAI commercial where they showed the steam engine and the light bulb and the Apollo rocket and a mobile phone and the internet, and then it feels like they showed ChatGPT summarizing an email. And and I don't think they did, but it feels like they did. And I think what we've seen a lot of times in practicality is use cases for AI that are a teeny bit underwhelming. And what Chris and I have been brainstorming on a lot is we've seen a lot of use cases based on efficiency and time savings. And as you get a secure foundation and you want to present these use cases to the business, sometimes the CEO, the CFO is going to say, "Oh man, you're saving salespeople 5 minutes a day. I'm not going to pay for that." So what we've been working really hard on is use cases that are, yeah, they'll probably save some time, but they drive revenue and in a tangible way. And when we think of revenue, we think of it pretty specifically. We think of it revenue performance. And you can write this down if you want. This is pretty important. Revenue performance, predictability, and insights. So I maybe in terms of performance, I maybe could go out and accidentally play golf pretty well one day, but I don't know. I won't know why I did it, and I won't be able to predict why could do it again. So we want this revenue engine to become not just performant but predictable, and you be able to dissect what's going wrong and improve it when you're doing it. And I think what you're going to see in these use cases that we go through together is that they do those things. So I'm a CRM guy. If you don't know me from way back, probably too far way back, but at least Microsoft Dynamics. It wasn't even called. It was called Microsoft CRM 1.0 Alpha, and CRM since then and Siebel and before was always forms. So if I'm going to walk my dog, I don't fill out a form. It's a thing that I do, and technology knows that I'm walking. So my watch says, "Hey, are you going for a walk? Do you want to track it?" That's what we want. That's what the way we want to interact with technology with AI. So in sales, doing CRM is not a thing that salespeople need to do. They plan their week, they get ready for meetings, they have meetings, they do pipeline follow-ups, they strategize, and they try to sell things when they said they were going to sell it. So there's a methodology called jobs to be done. And what we'll show you is some things where we're looking at jobs to be done that can impact revenue. And I've got 6 of them. I may get 3. We may get a few. What Chris and the team did was record some little videos that I'll kind of narrate through, so it'll let us go through them pretty quick, and we can always come back together. Anybody remember this movie? Gordon Gekko. He was wrong about some stuff, but he wasn't wrong about this. In terms of revenue, every battle is won before it's fought. And one of the problems that salespeople, all of us, struggle with is, what do I do? What do I spend my time on? And in the heat of the day is not the right time to plan. And as a matter of fact, I read where Gartner says that up to 10% of annual sales in the average mid-market company is lost because of poor sales planning. And I don't mean the big sales meeting at the beginning of the year. I mean like Sunday night. So we built a little scenario and we just call it Sunday Stress Buster. And it's an app that comes to you. You get a notification and you open it up and you could be sitting on your couch and it's going to do Copilot enabled planning. It's going to help you prioritize what you're doing this week, the meetings you have, the important deals, the task that is going to give you insights into your CRM data without taking your laptop out and maybe getting your spouse or your kids mad. It's going to look at where you are from a revenue perspective, and it is Copilot enabled. So yes, there's charts and graphs, but you can talk to it. You can just tell me about blah, blah, blah deal. Tell me about my pipeline that I have going on for this week. And it can give you real-time answers. So the benefit is it's going to help sellers spend more time doing the things that matter the most and drive that revenue performance, predictability, and insights. Make sense? Another one, mobile. And we see this I didn't click to the next thing yet. We have a couple, quite a few mobile ones because in our engineering expertise as IT people, we think that everybody works from home like we do. But guess what salespeople do? They go visit people still. And it's important because buyers' expectations have changed over the years. There's some bad news here that 82% of buyers think that sellers aren't prepared for sales visits, whether it's online or in person. And unfortunately, about 50% sellers agree with that point of view. They just I got too much to do. My job's become unmanageable and I can't be prepared. So one thing we want to do is help field sellers get some of the benefits that in office sellers get in terms of, I've just arrived at a customer site and help me think about what my watch did. My watch told me that I'm going for a walk. What if your phone says, hey, you're at Trofeo, you're going to see Greg. Here's what's been ordered for Greg. Here's what's on the truck being shipped to Greg. Those are the questions that buyers ask. Those are the questions you need to be ready to drive. So location awareness, real-time analytics, and actually live coaching and the ability to interact with Copilot in the field is what people are demanding. And that's what we're trying to deliver with some of these use cases. So this guy in this image is actually asking, hey, what's on the truck? What's been shipped? What's not been shipped? Pretty cool, right? You haven't seen anything like that in a bunch of these demos that are out there. So the other one is 91% of CRM data is bad according to Salesforce. And Salesforce would know they have a huge market share. And we've solved for that in a lot of cases for office-based salespeople, where we can record Teams call. We've got 10 different ways, 50 different ways to record calls. But what about if we actually go to see people? How do we document? People have gotten used to calls being recorded. What if we want to have something in our seller's hand that lets them document a conversation? What if they want to record a conversation in front of a client? So again, we've got this kind of cool app that says, hey, here's what's going on, but I've got this meeting, so let's record this conversation that we're having. We can transcribe it. We can look at the customer in their eye versus bringing a laptop and looking like the IRS agent interviewing or trying to take things in manual notes and transcribing back in the hotel later. Or if a customer feels a little uncomfortable with that, worst thing you can do is you get back in the car and you record these notes. They go right into your CRM. it identifies your follow-up items. It identifies important things that came up in the conversation. And if you record the meeting, it's going to give you insights about your meeting and how you did in the meeting. Sound pretty cool? So have you ever felt like sales reps seemed interchangeable? Where I have felt that way on people who've called on me before. And I think what happens is prospects see them as vendors, not advisors. And this leads to lower margins because you have a price-driven conversation and maybe even lost deals. And so what we wanted to do is help sellers who have this ever harder becoming job to develop a compelling point of view with the help of AI. Let me click the little things here. So I'm in the office now. I'm in front of my Dynamics, and I click over to the right. You click Copilot and see how Greg was talking about prompts. We've built some special prompts and a Copilot that says, hey, look at what's going on in this deal and help me build a point of view for this. And there's different methodologies that you can use for something like this. Ours that we said was, okay, what is the deal? Why are they doing this? Why now? And maybe why us in this. And it can look at the conversations that are happening and help and research the web and help put this together for you. Pretty cool. You won't see that every day. So let's look at another one. So Salesforce has deal scoring, HubSpot, InkSpot, whatever the spot has deal scoring, and they all are the same thing. They use machine learning and they compare your deal to past deals. And usually they require about 200 deals to be able to do this. And it really is just looking at this deal versus what's happened in the past. And that's cool and that's valuable. What we bring to the table here is the ability to look at what's actually happening. What about the conversations that are happening in an opportunity? And what are those doing in terms of moving that deal through your funnel, through your sales stages in terms of volume and velocity and conversion? And are there things that we need to do different in that deal? Do we need to solidify our why now value proposition in this deal? So this takes the scoring up a notch. So, and it doesn't show it on here, but you actually get a score for the deal, but it's a much, much more effective score than kind of a 3-year-old ML score. So take a breath. Is this cool so far? Okay, so I'm going to introduce.
I think it's super cool, Chuck.
Thank you, Greg. So we introduced a concept in conversation intelligence about 3 years ago that Chris refers to as playbooks. There's playbooks and plays. So the first big conversation intelligence engine was Gong, and Microsoft's in there. Otter, Grain. There's 100 of them now. What they all kind of do though is they record the call and they try to give you some insights on the call, but to every single one of them, a call is a call is a call is a call. And let me ask you a question. Is a discovery call a different conversation than a presentation call? Is a presentation call a different call than a customer service call? They're all different. So what we've developed is, on top of Microsoft Copilot for Sales, is we built our own Copilot that extends what they've built, and we run it through different playbooks and plays. And I'm going to click and show you. This is a customer service one, but we actually have a bunch of different plays that we can do here. So it's gonna go look and it's gonna find a call and it'll show you a playbook, and these playbooks have plays in them. So in a customer service call, there's things you should say, there's things you should ask. and it's going to help us get better at that. As you can see, it's clicking it though. There's different kinds of calls here. So we got this customer service call where it's giving us a score on how this customer service rep did, because this is already a customer. It takes us 7 times as hard to get a new one than to just keep the one we have. So this is a really important call. On top of this, though, we run it through a relationship score. It does something kind of like Myers-Briggs, based on how people are, real colors, something like that, the way that people are talking and interacting with each other. So we run it through several playbooks on each call, and we have different call types. So they're all contextual, which is really cool. For example, in the discovery call, good sellers ask situational questions, better sellers ask sort of problem questions. Really good sellers ask impact questions. So what happens if you don't do that? What happens if you do address this? Which is really important for a discovery call, but for a presentation call, that's irrelevant. So you can't use Gong for this. And Gong costs like $130 to $180 a seat, and it won't do this. No conversation engine that we know of will do this. So it's kind of cool that you can do this with just an extension of Microsoft Copilot. Makes sense. What do you guys think so far? I'm pretty sure nobody has anything that you've seen.
No, it's awesome. I've seen some of it live, obviously, but
we use a bunch of
great.
it inside of our in our firm, and we have some clients that use this. We have one client that uses one of the mobile pieces, and they won a innovation award from one of the biggest retailers in the world. So these things really work. They're just not the standard use case that saves a salesperson 20 minutes a day and things like that. But they drive revenue. So secure, cool, drive revenue. But how do we do this in the future? And Greg and I'll talk through this together a little bit. But we talked about the CEO that said, we got to be doing something with AI now. I'm worried my competitors are going to outflank us. I'm worried, and I think we're ahead of most people. But you think about it, the IT folks are worried about security. They're worried about ROI, and they're worried about sprawl. I live in Atlanta. We know what sprawl means. Sprawl in the context of something like AI is very dangerous and can really put an IT team out of sorts. So we're kind of in this, and I'll ask Greg after I say this little piece here what he thinks, but we're kind of in this unique time with AI. I've never seen anything like it. But at the same time, some of the addressing it, there are some things that have happened in the past that we've learned, frameworks that we can use, like Access happened in the past, SharePoint happened in the past, low code happened in the past. And these things, it could be a user or a department or a bunch of them that they saw some value in Access or SharePoint or low code, and it grew and it can get out of hand. But there is a concept of dealing with this called a center of excellence. And the same framework works for AI. Right, Greg? You've seen this a zillion times with cloud and things you've done.
Yeah, I think that the first thing that comes to mind when I'm thinking of something to do with a center of excellence, especially from an AI standpoint, is this is not something that's owned by a specific group within your organization, or at least it shouldn't be. This isn't something that just the technology group and the CIO run with. It really transcends that. And if you think about it from a practicality perspective, you're going to have stakeholders from different parts of your organization to pull together for this center of excellence. And, if I were building it, the first thing I would start with is a business strategy. Well, you have a business strategy, but what are the things that you feel AI is going to be able to move the ball from a business strategy perspective? And how do those things interweave with what the company wants to attain going forward? And then you can take it a step further, like what are the things that we dared not even dream of that we could put in place that now we can because of this acceleration in technology that AI is bringing forward. I think that some of the parts that I talked about are also important for this center of excellence, and that part would be the technology strategy, like which cloud platform you're going to use, which AI you're going to use. If you're going to use prompt engineering, which platform do you want to use for that? What are the different security pieces you're going to have in place? What are the pieces from a compute perspective? Where are you going to deploy it? What's going to be the end user adoption strategy for it? And then I think components tied to development, like how are you going to develop this AI kind of center of excellence slash how are you going to develop the solutions, and are they going to be for your end users, or are they going to be for your people that are inside your four walls? And how are you going to make that gel? I also think that there's a component that isn't talked about as much, but it's super important, and that is from an ethics perspective and a cultural integration. The AI platforms that we have are probably not by purposefully, but they are tied to specific cultural norms depending upon where they were created. If you ask a question within one culture, it can mean completely something different in another culture, especially if you leave a comma out. The same thing, I think, ties into deployments within AI as well. And then there's the ethical components. And, we've seen some organizations starting to coalesce around this idea that they have a director of ethics or somebody who is even a chief ethics officer that would ensure that you're not doing things with AI that you're not supposed to do. For example, we're a consulting firm, and though you can use AI for information or for little pieces, you wouldn't take, Copilot and feed like an Excel spreadsheet and a document of notes into it and say, okay, create an output for me and then send that off to a customer. It's just what nobody is paying for right now. Now, there's a lot of components that AI can help with, but ethically, that's probably not the best way to go. So I think that would be a good example of that.
Perfect. So Greg talked about some things. Here's some tactics. So we want to give you the strategy. We want to give you the tactics of how to get going. One of the things is, where are you in your journey? And Greg alluded to this. And are there some pilots that you can pick out and start to come up with a governance plan? We wanted to give you a little bit of a help as a start. So feel free. We can put this in a something, or you can grab a screenshot. Here is a rather generic assessment that you could grab off. Feel free to grab the screenshot, or I'll paste it in the chat or whatever. But you kind of want to know where you are in the journey. And what you can do is, I put a little thing down here where it says, hey, use a scale, or use, where are you? Like, are we ad hoc? Are we emerging? Have we established something here? Are we advanced? Are we leading? For each one of these, and it'll kind of tell you where you are and where you can start. So hopefully this is a nice takeaway for folks that are just getting started with this. And last but not least, go try something. Go try something. 91% of CRM data is bad. If you do nothing but do a trial of Copilot for sales, you'll have better data in your CRM. You'll save salespeople some time, and then you can move into the next level, which is what we talked about before with some of these revenue lifting use cases. But as Greg said, let's do it in a safe and secure way. Let's have a plan to do it, and let's track it. There's a link here. I don't know if you click, if we put this, but Microsoft actually has an AI COE that you can look at their framework and implement it in your organization. Or of course, you can. Greg and I are kind of, as a part of this, offering to have a chat with folks, and we can go through the AI assessment of where you are and what you're trying to do. Every single use case that you just saw, we can unpack for you and show, they're not for sale. They're configurations that we've done for either for ourselves proactively or for clients. So you're not starting at ground zero when you work with us. So Tasha, we have an envisioning lab is what we call it.
Yes, actually, I was just typing in there. We will send you guys the link to this recording, and I'm pulling up the link to the visioning lab, but that will also be provided in a follow-up email. Greg and Chuck are going to provide a couple hours of, strategy session with anyone that's interested. And
how many people saw something you had not seen before with AI today? You do it, give me a high five or raise your hand. I see a few. Yeah. I hope so, because we spent a bunch of time on a bunch of these that there is a lot of emails and conversation summarization going on in the world. And I think it is time that we go beyond that and help people drive revenue in a safe and secure way with AI. And that's one of the things we're all working on together. So look forward to talking in the future about this.
Any questions before we wrap up? Well, thank you, Greg. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, everybody, for attending. And like I said, I will get this recording and the link to the free Envisioning Lab to you later today.
Sounds good.